The federal tax code is an overgrown monster. But it's not even a cool monster. It's a dorky mechanical monster held together with a bunch of tattered red tape and driven around by squirrelly bureaucrats. The scary part is that we've been slaves to something this ridiculous as long as we have. So what would happen if we scrapped all 82,000 pages of the current tax code and simplified things with Herman Cain's 999 plan? The economy would accelerate faster than Barack Obama on his way out of town. We would add $2 trillion to GDP and create 6 million jobs. Business investment would increase by a third. Wages would go up 10%. At the same time, federal revenues would go up 15%. And we would never again have to spend the IRS recommended 37 hours filling out forms. In fact, a recent study estimated that for every dollar we pay the IRS, it costs us another 30 cents just for the privilege. If you add it all up, America spends about $431 billion every year just keeping up with the rules. By demolishing the current tax code and replacing it with a flat, simple 9% income tax, 9% business tax, and 9% national sales tax, lots of other taxes would be eliminated altogether, namely the 35% individual income tax, the 35% corporate income tax, the capital gains tax, repatriated foreign profits, the marriage penalty, the always popular death tax. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, that oppressive payroll tax, which is a 15% flat tax from the first dollar with no deductions. For many Americans, that's the largest tax they pay. Check this out. It's just one example. Right now, when a farmer grows wheat and sells it, he's taxed on the profits. So, of course, he passes that cost along to the food processor. There's our first hidden tax. When the processor turns the wheat into bread and sells it to a distributor, she's taxed on her profits too. Second embedded tax. The distributor is also taxed. And when we buy that bread at the store, the retailer pays Uncle Sam yet another cut. And the price includes all 4 of these hidden taxes, compliance costs, and payroll taxes. That can be as much as 30 or even 40% of the items we buy. Greedy Uncle Sam has our wallets on a pretty short leash. At least, that's how it works right now. But what if all these hidden business taxes were based on a flat 9% instead of that 30 or 40%? Pretty soon, the marginal costs of production would drop, and that loaf of bread gets a lot cheaper to make, thus a lower price at the store. When the new 9% national sales tax gets factored in, our out-of-pocket costs at the store stay about the same, maybe a little less than they were before, but now we know exactly when we're being taxed and when we're not. And because taxation is directly tied to spending, we have a lot more control, too. The more transparent the tax system is, the more accountable government has to be. And vice versa. That's how the weasels that came up with paycheck withholding have been able to deceive an entire generation into thinking it's the government's money to begin with. Anyone nervous about introducing a national sales tax should realize that we're essentially paying one right now. It just isn't visible. Once these taxes are out in the open, it incentivizes savings and doesn't allow tourists, imports, or even underground activity to sneak by. So, the bottom line, what we pay at the store would stay about the same. But American businesses, the engine of the economy, could grow like crazy, no matter how guilty Warren Buffett feels about it. But how do we know that cutting business taxes will mean lower prices for us? Won't big corporations just pocket the extra profit? Actually, businesses care about something called competition, so they'll be held accountable by the largest, most powerful enforcement group in the nation. That's us, hundreds of millions of American consumers. And if you've purchased a high-tech product in the last few decades, you've seen how the free market keeps driving prices lower, while quality and innovation chug along faster than, say, government-subsidized electric cars ever will. But won't future politicians make 999 look just like the mess we have now, or worse? Well, then why bother passing any legislation ever again? And while the 999 plan does include a national sales tax, it simultaneously slices off lots of other bureaucratic tentacles already foraging in our pockets. I mean, other than the TSA. Besides, bad government will always try to corrupt things. But the cornerstone of the 999 plan is transparency, a highly effective limit on the power of politicians. And as John Adams reminded us, it's up to a virtuous people to remain vigilant and find a way to restore things. And that's what 999 is all about. So what about the poor who don't pay any income tax right now? Well, the 999 plan actually features across-the-board exemptions that turn the entire country into an opportunity zone. And per-worker incentives and additional exemptions would be available in the most economically distressed areas. Because everybody would get an exemption starting at the poverty line, Americans in lower tax brackets right now would have even more opportunities to move up as the economy takes off. The 999 plan is simple enough to vanquish the ineffective bureaucrats that lurk in the dark crannies of complexity, transparent enough to deter cronyism, and fair enough, fair being the dictionary definition, not the president's class warfare definition, to level the playing field and keep the government from picking winners and losers. Let's face it, for far too long, we've been the hapless victims of a monstrously dysfunctional tax code. It's time to throw that baby out with the bathwater, and then bleach the tub, and then put in a sump pump to keep it from overflowing on us again. With your support, the 999 plan will do just that.
Cain Connections is responsible for the content of this advertising.